Question from a client. Really fantastic question. Working with somebody who's got histamine mast cell issues. And she sent a question, okay, I just ate something that is higher in histamine. Is that a large setback timeline-wise? Like one meal, right? Out of like how she's eating all the time. So really fantastic question. I'm not going to give any details away. So if this is you, sorry, honey. Hope it's okay. I'm not going to identify who you are. But so this sweetheart sends me this question and I think, oh my gosh, I love this question. I love this question because first of all, it was one meal and there was a reaction. There was a histamine mediated reaction afterwards. And she's curious to know how much it's going to set her back. Like, does this add 3 weeks to her timeline of how much time it's going to take to rebuild things? And it's not that, I don't know that that's necessarily the right way to look at things. I'm going to invite you to look at it in a different way. It might work for you to look at it that way. You might find other practitioners who would say, you have a set 6 months to reset your mechanisms in the body. You can work that way if you want to, but I like to look at it in a different way, and I'll tell you why. I think there's I'm so like, God, my clients ask the best questions. I think you can see it as an invitation, as a different kind of opportunity. What if you see it as information? So she had a meal where she had a few ingredients in there. Most of it is actually low histamine. One of those was, while it's actually not a high histamine food itself, it could potentially trigger some histamine release in the body. Partially because it was a packaged food. Goat cheese was the item in this case, where she's not sure how long ago it would have been made. And she had a sneaking suspicion it was the goat cheese. Everything else seemed pretty good. Actually quite good. No, actually really awesome. And also, I joked that she should invite me over for dinner next time she makes this, because it sounded amazing. But the goat cheese was the ingredient in question. So I said, okay, this is very interesting. What if you saw it as a chance to give feedback on how you're doing, instead of, oh God, now I'm back like 6 weeks behind? One meal is not going to set you back any time at all. It's not a timeline thing. There's not a set destination in mind. There's a shifting how you move through the day instead. That's the invitation, especially when there's histamine and mast cell issues at play. And I wrote down a really long answer for her, and I'll spare you some of the details, but I think so much about how we approach food and how we approach health and how we think about it can also have an influence in our body's reactions. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago about I have histamine issues versus histamine issues are upon me. That's an Irish way of looking at things. The Irish, in the Irish language, in the Celtic language, sadness is upon me. You wouldn't say I am sad. The way that you would describe it in the Irish language is sadness is upon me. And when you present it that way, you kind of inherently work in there that this is not something that's stuck to you. It's a fluid time. You're not sad. You will not be sad for the rest of your life. It's only here upon you in this moment, and the assumption is it will eventually leave. And I think the very same thing with histamine and mast cell issues and any chronic issues, to be honest. So for her, I said, okay, so what if it's a chance for information? What if you had a reaction, then it gives you information that, okay, well, packaged goat cheese from the store that was mass produced somewhere else and probably took a week to get to the shop and sat in your fridge for another week. Maybe that's too long of a time and you're not ready for that yet. There's going to be a time where you will be ready. We're going to work towards a chance for that to be a potential for you. And having it is not going to set you back at all. It's not setting you back. It's merely giving you information. Your value as a human is not wrapped into whether or not you can not have symptoms, like at all. Symptoms are merely your body's feedback mechanism to tell you it's asking for something different and it needs you maybe to change something because it's struggling somewhere. So on this topic of mindset, so a lot of it is mindset. So could you look at it as information was the first step. The second step was, well, if meals feel so tricky right now, what if you had, you draw up a list of criteria that you want in your meals. This is going to take me a minute to explain because this is a back deck chat, and these back deck chats are not scripted. I don't have my ideas all laid out. It's me thinking out a process. So if I'm too talkative for you, go somewhere else. This is not a thing for you. It really pisses me off when people are like, you talk roundabout and you don't get to the point. No, because it's a conversation. I'm not doing a class presentation and I don't have a handout in front of me to direct me on what to say next. So stick it. Anyway, that's me how I feel about these things. So to her, I said, okay, what if, I'll read to you what I wrote. Every meal is a mere moment in time. Instead of seeing it as a setback, can you see it as information and a good chance to check to see how your tolerance currently is and if it's improving over time? That's the first piece. It's a matter of balance to reach for. How about this? If you decide on a few things for meals, a few criteria that you would like in your meals, and you can come up with a criteria of 3 or 4 things or 5 things. And the idea is once you've come up with these, like let's say 4 ideas, for a meal to serve you, it's going to need to hit at least 3 of these things. And if a meal hits 3 of these things, then you're going to say an emphatic yes. And then you're going to bless it and get on with it. And then I gave her some examples, and I actually wrote down 5. So I said, what if you choose 3 or 4 things? And I gave her a list of what she could choose from. It's going to fill me up. It will help me bust histamine, or it won't drive a reaction. It'll taste really good. It will nourish me, and it will feed all my different body parts and systems in my body. I gave her more. These foods will look after my gut and my microbiome. That would be meat, stock, butter, and any plant foods, like vegetables and fruits. Or maybe you could also, one of the criteria could be, it was easy. So then I said, okay, so pick, do you want 3 of these? Do you want your master list to have 3, 4, or 5, or 6 of these things? And then from there, say to yourself, okay, for each meal, I want to hit 3 of the 5 things on my list, or I want to hit 4 of the 5 things on my list. You will get to decide what you're comfortable with. Decide what works for you. So if the meal I'm thinking about, like if I take all 6 and I say I want 4 of my 6, this meal ahead of me is going to fill me up, and it is going to help me bust histamine. It's going to taste really good. It's going to nourish me and feed all of my body parts and systems. And it's not easy, okay? But it's going to look after my gut and microbiome, but it's not easy. I'm still going to make the meal. I don't know if this is making sense. So I'll tell you how I came up with this, and it's not my idea, to be clear. Well, this iteration of it is. But it comes from a conversation I had with a sweet pal of mine who is a conductor. This is her work. Her work is in conducting orchestras around the world. She's a guest conductor. She's brilliant at what she does. P.S. I saw her recently perform, and she was a force. And so she travels the world. She's very good at what she does. And she says, okay, so for me to pick my guest conductor spots, where I'm going to perform for the year ahead, she does this about a year in advance. She says, I have 4 criteria. Do I like the music we're performing? Do I like the orchestra I'll be working with? Do I like, what else did she say? I wrote this down in the email as well. Do I like the orchestra? Do I like the music? Do I like the pay? Do I think they're paying me a fair wage? And do I like the city? And she picks 3 out of those 4 things. If what is offered to her, if they pay well, she likes the orchestra, she can't stand the music, but she likes the city, she will say yes to this performance. If they pay crappy, but it's a really great orchestra, she loves the music they're performing, and she absolutely loves going to the city, she will say yes. And this helps her guide her decisions in saying yes to her contracts. So applying this to the food you're eating. So I offered this to my client today. And I said, okay, so I'm going to give you a bunch of things and you can draw your own list, but I'll give you a starting list. Pick how many criteria you want to base your meals on, and then pick how many of those criteria it will take for you to say yes to a meal. It's easy has to be one of those criteria. And if you want, it has to be easy as one of the always criterias. Well, you can also make that rule. You're the boss and you're the person who's going to figure this out for yourself. Your list is going to be different than the next person's list. So could you build something like this? Could you, okay, this is going to fill me up. This is going to taste delicious. This is going to leave me feeling good. I know I'm not going to get a flare in symptoms. I know it's going to help me bust histamines. I know it's going to be anti-inflammatory. I know when I eat this meal, it recalibrates a bunch of stuff. Whatever that is, fill in the blank for yourself. It is going to nourish all of my different body parts. This food is really good for my gut. It's easy. I love these flavors. This food reminds me of growing up. This is a food my family loves. This is a meal I love to make in this season. You can come up with a list of the particulars you wish for your own list. So if you were to draw up your own list, this is what I'd like to know. What would be on your list? What would be some of those criteria on your list? And then, once you've built your list, how many of those criteria will allow you to say yes to the meal? Because we have to bring in flexibility, especially in the case of histamine and mast cells. Histamine and mast cell issues, those of us who work through that for a long time feel so restrained and like we have to walk this very tight line. And a bit of the medicine of addressing histamine and mast cells is giving ourselves permission to allow more flexibility and soften those lines. That's the work I'm finding in my 10 plus years of working with clients who have histamine and mast cell issues. So much of the work is in inviting in flexibility and creating that possibility for flexibility. Across the board, all of my histamine clients. And in fact, it informs so much of how I work with my clients. And within the first 3 visits we have, I can tell how much flexibility and how much flow this client has. And I can get a good sense if that's going to be a piece that they will have a little bit of ease in moving and which people may not have or may have difficulties with it. And I'm happy to tell you that I'm often very surprised and it doesn't go the way I thought it would. So I haven't figured it out at all, but it's merely just observations from empirical data that I gathered myself completely from my own point of view. But it's really quite remarkable to me how much flexibility and flow needs to become a part of the medicine. And I don't have a handout on that. There's not a food you can eat for flow and flexibility. There's not a recommendation that comes with that. There's a practice to it. There's a practice, a little bit about it, that is about letting go, that is about putting a little bit of trust into things and making decisions and like making a sovereign decision for yourself, as opposed to following strict rules and staying in this narrow line. I don't know if this helps you. I wanted to share this because I think it's something I've been thinking so much about with one-on-one clients. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. If you built your own list of criteria for meals, what would be on your list? I can't wait to hear.